Moonlight glinted off the gilded locket clasped around the corpse's cold neck. Ophelia Grimm unfastened her mother's heart-shaped necklace with fervor before stepping clear of the spell circle and reaching beneath her loose umber curls to secure the familiar bauble around her own throat. A shiver ran down her spine when the chilled metal settled against her skin, and her flesh prickled beneath it. Ophelia sank to her knees on the left of her mother's pale corpse, her sister, Genevieve, watching a few feet away in rapt silence. Tightening her grip around the silver blade in her hand, Ophelia pressed its sharp tip into the soft, ivory flesh of her inner arm. The slice was deep but precise, drawing enough blood that it dripped and pooled onto the ground before her, and dyed the delicate white material of her nightgown a macabre shade of vermilion. The scent of iron and salt was pungent. Ophelia let the blade clatter to the floor, and Genevieve flinched like a spooked hare. Ophelia ignored her sister's cringing as she struck a match, relishing the hiss of the igniting fire in the dead quiet of Grimm Manor. She reached toward the nearest candle and waited for its wick to flare to life, tapping the side of the waxy pillar while she counted each touch silently in her head. 1, 2, 3. When the candle finally lit, Ophelia nudged it into place within the spell circle, and the rest of the pillars around Tessie Grimm's lifeless body instantly ignited. The Grimm sisters' shadows stretched all the way up to the ceiling as the velvet curtains billowed violently. It had been Ophelia that awoke, sweat-soaked in the middle of this balmy New Orleans night, to find their mother lying stiff on the cream chambray rug. There had been no horrified screams or signs of panic or foul play. No signs of any peril at all. Just her mother sprawled out on the ground as if the woman had decided to retire for the night on the floor of the living room instead of a bed. If the foreign, crackling feeling of magic had not alerted her that something was very wrong, she might not have found her mother until the sun rose, and by then it would have been too late. Ophelia had been vaguely aware of her sister padding down the creaky stairs after her, but had been too busy scouring her memories to warn Genevieve of the gruesome scene below. Ophelia flipped through her recollection for confirmation that she had knocked on her headboard enough times and tapped her knuckles in the correct pattern on her wall before she went to sleep. But she knew she had. Her compulsions were routine at this point. This was not her fault. It couldn't be. She'd done everything perfectly. For a moment, she'd considered leaving the corpse as it was and going back to bed, convinced it would disappear in the morning just as all her mind's conjurings did. It wasn't until Genevieve's blistering sob and the pulse of power in the air that she sprang into action. She'd snapped at Genevieve to find a box of matches and had dashed through Grimm Manor to their mother's study, ransacking the room for the 7 black candles she needed to perform the spell before the window of opportunity closed forever. Ophelia was now the eldest Grimm. A dead mother made her much more than an orphan. "Hurry, your time is running out." The shadow voice that haunted her every waking thought whispered inside her mind. "If you miss your window, there will be consequences." Ophelia pushed the voice away as she dipped 2 fingers into her own blood, careful not to reach past the circle of candles lest she break it and screw up the one thing she had been training for her entire life. This was it, the 11th hour. Whatever she decided to do next would change her irrevocably. She could refuse to finish the spell and stay as she was, the only version of herself that she'd ever known. Or she could pay the price of continuing her family's legacy. "You don't have to do it, Ophi," Genevieve whispered in the dark, almost pleaded. But Ophelia couldn't be the one who ended her family's magic. As much as this ritual would change the makeup of her very being, not going through with it would change her in a way that would break her spirit. The need to be good, to do well by everyone who had ever expected anything of her, was nestled deep inside her bones, inextricable from her soul.